Introducing the Darius Minor Foundation, our first fundraising campaign, the All American Cleat Drive, running May 5th through June 4th. For more details, reach out on Twitter. More information to come. With that being said, Spotlight 39 starts now. What's going on, everybody? It's Rob Odie. This is Spotlight 39. I'm in the bear cave. You know the Studio 39. I got a lot of echo, but it's all good. We're going to figure it out because we're live. So, look, do that thing, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff, right? More importantly, comment during the show. I'm going to bring up on the screen, show some love, right? That's what it's all about. We're going to get into some great stories. We're going to talk memories. We're going to talk, 2018 and what it meant. We're going to talk a little recruiting because that's what Spotlight 39 is all about. We're just going to have some good old conversation, man. So, with that being said, I'm going to let you go ahead and formally introduce yourself. So, tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do, and all that good stuff.
Appreciate it, Rob, and thanks for having me on.
Sure.
So I'm Charlton. I'm the head coach at the University of Maine. I was born in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I was only there for a couple of years. My dad was in the Navy, so we were down there for that. And I grew up out of Boston in a town called Salem, Massachusetts. It's a small town that's probably one of the more famous in the country because of something that happened 400 years ago. So the witch trials, obviously, is a big thing. Our mascot's actually the witches, so we take a lot of pride in that. But I ended up going to Boston College. I was recruited at a couple of D2 schools to play football and ended up going there and catching on with a number of guys who were big mentors to me in coaching. Was fortunate enough to be a grad assistant after that for 3 years under Coach Steve Adazio and Ryan Day, and was working with the offensive line and then the quarterbacks. So I did that for a couple of years, and that was a big part of my coaching career and growing into this role. And then I got to the University of Maine in 2015. First, I was the wideouts coach, then special teams coordinator, and then obviously 2018, which we're going to talk about, I was the offensive coordinator, and now I'm the head coach. So, I've kind of grown up here, and I have 3 children. They're all Mainers, which I never could have imagined would be how it would have worked out. So, that's kind of a brief synopsis, but we've been up here now for 6 years, and it's really been a blessing, and we're very fortunate.
Yeah, man. So I appreciate you kind of taking us, down the path. That's super interesting. I didn't realize, like, I knew it, but I didn't think about it until you said it, that you pretty much grew up, at Maine, right? Which is just really cool. You went through the ranks, and now you're the head guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at a lot of guys in the program, obviously with Joe before, and a number of our assistants, we've kind of grown through being at the University of Maine, and it doesn't always work out that way. We were talking about it before the show started. A lot of times you got to move around, you got to do a lot of different things at this level. So I've been very fortunate, and with the opportunities we've had here, and started off as a restricted earnings wideouts coach, and ended up being a coordinator as we went, and fortunate enough to now be the head coach. So grown from my time at Boston College to now Maine, those are certainly my 2 homes outside of where I grew up.
Very cool, man. And me being a Red Sox fan, man, I love Boston. So very, very cool. And then speaking of Boston, our guy Jeff, right? Jeff Devon,
Yep.
Boston College, right? So he's closer to home, doing his thing, man,
Yep.
outside of the game of football, which I always try to preach. So I figured I'd plug that in, man. You can still be super successful even if you don't make it to the NFL. That's just a prime example. But look, let's get into it, man. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. Let's start where it all began, at least where our relationship started. Let's go back to
Yep.
2018. Talk to me about what 2018 meant to you. Share some memories, thoughts, anything that you want to reflect on about 2018 as a whole.
Well, we could probably spend a few hours talking about 2018 if we wanted to. It started, obviously, you and I both know how it started, and obviously with Darius and that the situation, it was a very difficult time, and for our team and our football family, and then obviously kind of like that bond that came from that. It was very difficult, and it ended up becoming this rallying cry for us. And obviously, no one can predict anything like that. And we still obviously honor Darius in a lot of different ways. And you and I have talked about how we're going to continue.
All right, so I think he's having some internet connections. He'll be right back. I'll just throw this up here for now. I appreciate your patience. All right. Good old Wi-Fi, right? But I'm sorry.
You got me?
Yep, we're good to go.
So I mean, obviously we know, how kind of everything started, and I think coming out of the summer, and obviously the tragedy with Darius, and it ended up being a rallying cry for us, and a real bond for our team, and it was very difficult for our guys, and obviously, you and I, that's how we unfortunately came to know each other, and as we got into it, when we got into the training camp aspect of it, we just became a very close team, and kind of going through a lot of that, it was hard. But the guys and the leaders, like talking about Jeff, those type of guys, I mean, they were inspirational figures for all of us. And I think that ultimately led to our ability to be able to win the games that we were able to win. And it started off in New Hampshire,
Yeah.
the first weekend there. And for me in my career, it was a big deal because that was the first ever game I actually called the plays for. And a lot of that's instilling confidence in your players and yourself, and knowing that you can do it. And we played really well that game, and it's all about the players. But that really started it. Then we beat Western Kentucky, which is a big win for us, and things kind of went on from there. And a lot of people think that it was really, really easy. It was like cakewalk to win 10 games. But we were 4-3 at one point and had a couple tough losses, and we came off that William and Mary loss, and that kind of helped us find ourselves.
Yep.
And in a lot of ways, that was kind of the spark that led us to win 6 straight after that. Of course, we clinched part of the CAA title down at Richmond, which was a big moment, I know, for you and your family and Coach H, and then our football family. And then next week, winning it outright against Elon in a pretty wild game. And then we all know, how the playoffs obviously went. And we had a great couple of games there. Big win against Jacksonville State.
Huge.
We were underdogs at home, against them. And that was a first. But we ended up playing really, really well that game on both sides of the ball, and scored some points. And then went out to Weber, played in the mountains there, and played an unbelievable game on defense, and scored literally just enough points to win that game. So, yeah, I mean, it was pretty wild, but a very special season, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, every time that I've had somebody, from the program on the show, whether they're current or former, players, man, I always, ask them what's the one thing that just, the one play that stood out, in your mind. And I'll start, so you can think about it. But the one for me is when me and Cam was standing in the end zone at Towson, and we stopped them back to back to basically win the game. Like that was,
Yeah,
and I was in those types of plays, they don't happen. Like those aren't your norm, right? And
right.
then you spoke on Western Kentucky, right? So ironically, I had a young man, Tyler Witt, who played for Western Kentucky at the time, and I shared I was shared this story. He remembered it very vividly, and I was like, what was it like on the other side? And he was like, man, it was an eye opening experience because nobody expected it, and we got to watch that on national television. Like it was special. So what one play, or maybe a combo of plays that really stand out that maybe probably wouldn't have normally happened that just seemed to fit right.
I mean, from the start, when you look at I mean, probably, and again, player make the plays. But, against New Hampshire, we ran a trick play. It was in the second half, and we were already up by a couple of touchdowns, and we were starting to move the ball and kind of wanted to finish the game. And we called this trick play we had worked on for a long time. and it was a fake like jet sweep to Ernest, and he flipped it back to Drew Belcher, who used to be a quarterback for us, and he threw it obviously to Jaquan Blair for a 50-something yard touchdown, and that kind of was the nail in the coffin. And just I was in the booth at the time, but seeing our team just go nuts and kind of the realization that we had gotten over the hump and beaten them because we had struggled against them. That was a big play just to start, and that really kind of showed that we were going to be able to do it. Like when you bring up that Towson game, that was a very legitimizing game for us because they were an excellent opponent, and
they were what, sixth nationally in the FCS
very
ranking?
high and very talented. Like very good defense. We knew we had some tough sledding going in there, and obviously they had Flacco, and they were a very good team. And for us to make that stop at the end of the game, it was really, really cool. I think about Weber, and there's probably a million.
Yeah, there was a handful there. Oh, so we might have lost Wi-Fi again. Cool, cool, cool. Good old Wi-Fi.
I don't know why I'm cutting out here,
It's
but
all good.
but probably the block kick at Western Kentucky too, with Jordan Swan, who's still on our team. That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool
That was
because
very cool, right? That was
because
a
we
big
just we.
FBS win.
Well, I remember on the headset it was funny. Joe, kept saying when we were talking, he was like, can we get one play? Can we just get one? And we came up with the big block, and I mean, there's a million. I mean, there's a million of them. There's the two back-to-back, game-winning kicks.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, there's a
Villanova,
million.
it was Villanova, Rhode Island, right?
Yeah, and then Rhode Island, like the Rhode Island game, that 2-minute drill, very memorable for us to execute that because, that was a crazy game. That was a very talented Rhode Island team, and we were down by multiple scores, and needed to pick it up a little bit on offense, and came up with a bunch of big plays. Micah Wright had a huge game that day. There's so many.
Yeah, man.
It was a special season.
And then speaking of Micah, man, I think though, once the clinch happened and y'all got in the locker room, man, that was two claps and Ric Flair. That stuck with me
Yep.
for quite some time, man. So the passion, the brotherhood, those are the exact reasons why Darius decided, what, University of Maine is where I want to call home because it felt like home, and
Yep.
it was very special. And like you said, man, things happen for a reason. We would have never crossed paths. More than likely, we might have seen each other from the stands or something. But now
Right.
I think we've got a pretty close bond, or at least I feel we do.
Yeah.
And going back to 2018, I do my best to try not to get too deep and too emotional. So what we'll do is we'll kind of just come full circle and we'll talk about the process that's put in place since 18, right? So um, people move on, right? So Joe is now in Minnesota doing his thing. Hederman and Coach Burkett, they're doing their thing, and then now you're the front guy at the university, right? So the culture that was instilled, it's still burning right now. Like it's still very visible. It's great to watch. Um, so what has the transition been like? If we just talk about this current year, right? The spring season, the off season, the COVID, the crazy. What was the off season like for you guys, man? Like, were you guys together? Were you guys apart? You know, what what
Right.
what restrictions or mandates? How is Maine with COVID right now?
When I took the job, I didn't know, in year two we'd have a global pandemic. So that was good. That was definitely interesting to sprinkle that one in. But in terms of what we did, I mean, the guys handled it really, really well. And we got sent home in March like everybody did. Didn't have spring ball. I mean, we were running Zoom study halls and meetings and planning on playing. And it obviously got announced that we weren't going to play. Brought the guys back at the very end of August, started working out. It was very hard for our freshmen because they didn't know what was going on and what to expect. But our kids are very resilient, and that brand of football and player isn't going to really change, as long as I'm here. But they did well. We had fall ball,
Yeah.
so we ended up getting 13 practices in, which were great. I mean, we had live practices and thud practices, and it was real football, and doing that while watching other people play. So
Yeah.
credit to our guys. And then we get back here in late January and start camp, and we called it building camp because that's what we were doing because it wasn't a true training camp.
Yeah.
We're replacing our turf in 3 weeks.
Very cool.
So now I'm allowed to actually talk about the condition of the turf because we're replacing it. But let's just say when it's 10 degrees out, it's not exactly the best condition. So we found a way to power through, and our guys are tough, and it's just it gets how it gets up here. But we weren't supposed to be playing a season and doing that in March, and our guys handled it really well. And there were some ups and some downs, but in terms of playing a lot of players, older players, younger players, I mean, true freshmen out there starting some games. It's extremely meaningful, and I thought they handled it really well. We didn't have one positive throughout the entire time that we practiced or worked out or anything like that. The guys did a great job, and I'd like to think we're getting out of this now. That's been a big part of my meetings with the guys is just, hey, things are getting better. They're going to improve. And, because quality of life's important and mental health outside of football.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that people talk about, but, for these guys day to day, I mean, this is hard. And we talk about it and say that, the best part of your day should be playing football in practice, but it doesn't mean it's the only good part of your day. And I think that as we get out of this, things are going to start improving.
All right. Technical difficulties. Round 3, I think.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
we're back. Yep, we're good.
yeah, we sustained our culture and how we do things through the pandemic, and now that we're able to get back together, I mean, we're doing a lot of things in June when the guys get back in terms of just like building that, getting around each other. Obviously, we're going to be working out and running and cabins practices, things like that. But we're gonna just be together. Sit down and have a meal together.
Right.
I know that sounds like a ridiculous thing to be happy and excited about, but that's important.
That's
And
that's super
we
important.
talked about, I mean, I talked to Jeff the other day, and he went to a restaurant near BC that I told him we used to frequent, and I told him there was a Maine helmet in there because we knew them pretty well, and he sent me a picture, and that helmet's still there.
That's
But
cool.
but we were talking about 2018, and that got built in the summer. That got built over that time in June, July, and August, and this team will be built the same way. Every team is different. So when you look at the players and the coaches, it's always going to change, things like that. But the championships, they get built in the summer. So I'm excited to move forward here.
Yeah, man. Just crazy, crazy times. I know when I had Project Pat on the show, right? I was curious on what it looked like at the pro level, and wearing tracers, and it measured literally the distance between you and the next person to make sure that if that person was positive, you had to quarantine too, and it's like you got fined if you got caught on camera without a mask because cameras were everywhere. It was like, man, like it felt like Fort Knox just as an outsider, right?
Yep.
But the end result is, you got to put on some pads, right, and go out there and play some kind of football. And like you said, for these young men and their mental health, that's incredibly important. Just talking to high school kids and recruits, you know, they were just begging in different states to play ball, and the fact that they, pretty much everywhere has been able to do that, is just it's special in the current times. So fingers crossed, fall ball happens right as it should on schedule, with fans in the stands, and if so, I'll be
Yep.
there. But
We are we are planning on it. We are planning on it. So we're
yeah,
getting ready for our opener on the 4th of September against Delaware, and uh, planning on fans hopefully being there. So I mean, we're going to be ready to roll.
you got the opener followed by where?
We are at JMU.
That is
So
huge. I will.
so
Man,
we will
that's
be
going to be a
seeing each
big
other.
game. That is a very big game. That
Yep.
game was was marked on his calendar that he was looking forward to the most this past season that was originally scheduled.
Yeah.
Just based on the recruiting process that he experienced, and I was looking forward to seeing old faces, new faces, and enjoying it. So fingers crossed, I get to be there and enjoy that with you guys on both sides, man. I think it's gonna be super special.
Yeah, it'll be great. It'll be good. I haven't seen Corey and Matt in a long time, and we obviously keep up, but it'll be great. We're playing two Final Four opponents to start the whole thing. So
Yeah,
there's nothing like there is absolutely nothing like the schedule at the University of Maine. It's one of
no,
the most difficult and top at our level of football. So it's exciting,
yeah.
and obviously going down there to play in front of a great crowd, it's going to be an opportunity for our guys and hopefully, obviously, we can connect. And I expect you on the sideline, so we'll be
Yeah,
good.
I'll be there. I'll be there.
Yeah.
But speaking of the recruiting process, right? That's kind of what the idea of Spotlight 39 is, right?
Yep.
So let's talk about the what you look for, with the culture that you've got built, within the University of Maine. What is it that you look for when looking at high school student athletes? To be a part of the culture and the mentality that you have at the program.
Well, I mean, it starts with obviously academics, and you got to be eligible and you got to be able to do it in the classroom because otherwise you're not going to be able to finish your career. And ultimately, that's what we're trying to do is bring guys in. They're going to be able to finish their careers and earn a degree. So we start with that, and then in terms of football, you gotta. I always say this, and I start almost every single recruiting call with this and ask, "Do you love football?" Because a lot of guys like football and they're good at it and it's just part of their life and they like it and whatever. You have to love football to come to the University of Maine.
Yeah,
It's
you do.
rural. We're up there.
Man, I
Obviously, there's
gave
not a lot of
Darius so much
distractions.
crap.
You know, no doubt. I mean, you've heard this. So like in terms of, it's a state college, so there's plenty of that experience and there's things to do out of the pandemic. But in terms of what it's about, I mean, it's getting your degree and it's trying to win championships. And you got to start with that. You got to love football.
That's
And
it.
our guys, that's one thing that stood out to me, even going from Boston College to Maine, was these guys just love it. And they love ball. They love learning. They want to be in meetings. They want to go out and work on it. And it's just cool to be around our guys. And
Sorry about that. He shall return. All right. Round five.
we got like we have like commercial breaks built
Yeah.
in.
I now have a splash screen built for this.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
You got to start running. You got to run ads in between. But we want tough physical football players, and then obviously skilled players. Um, and we've done a really good job of that at our skill positions the last few years, especially. But like I said, it's and you were kind of alluding to it. It's a certain brand of player that we're looking for, and it's got to start with a love of the game, and it's got to be a true thing because authenticity is one of like the staples of our program, and we're looking for authentic guys that are hardworking and know what we are. We don't hide anything about our place, and
There's
again,
not much to hide in Orno, right?
nope, it's all out there, But at the end of the day, I mean, we were talking just about the other school. There's only two teams that have won the CAA outright twice, and that's James Madison and University of Maine. And
Huge.
uh, there's a reason for that. So our guys take a lot of pride in that, and we're excited to do this thing here pretty soon.
Yeah, man. So, and it's interesting because everybody that I've had on the show, from Jeff to Ernie, right? Hell, even Jamel, I had him on and he shared some stories, and then even Pat, they all said you have to be a different breed of a person to go to Maine and play ball because Maine is just built different as a whole. And from my experience, coming to that football banquet, that was prime example. I leave Virginia wearing shorts and flip flops at the end of April, and I get to
Right.
Boston. I'm at Fenway. It's a great game. The night before, we get in the car. We drive up in the morning. We get to the campus, and it's snowing while I'm watching the baseball game. What is that? Like it was it was very different, but that's exactly what you get when you go that far
Yep.
north to Maine. But
Yep.
once you get there, you're gonna see the brotherhood. You're gonna you're gonna see what the culture is, right? And that's what drew him there, which was caught me off guard, but I stayed true to it and made that 13 and a half hour trip on opening day and brought a
Yep.
bunch of family with us. So uh nonetheless, man, let me do this. I put up this camp uh you know flyer or image. Let's talk
Yep.
about the camp, man. What do you got going on? I know pretty much everything's opening January. I mean June 1, and that's when
Yep.
a lot of the dead period stuff ends and camps can open and all that good stuff. So what do we got at the University of Maine?
So these camps we've been able to run the last couple of years, they're usually overnight camps. These ones are we have like a youth camp, obviously, which is listed there on the 27th, 29th, and then a high school camp. And these are for typically New England guys that are able to make the trip. These are day camps this year just because of we're still getting out of the pandemic.
Yeah,
But we usually have great numbers here. We have players, but we're gonna have a number of our coaches as well. I'll obviously be there, and then we're gonna be releasing soon our true recruiting high school camp that we do.
okay,
We do it in Portland, Maine, and we're going to be getting approval to do that very soon. So that's probably going to be in July. So we're actually going to be releasing that as well very soon. So of course we have these camps, which again typically are for New England guys that can make the trip, and then our true prospect camp we're going to be releasing really soon, and we do that in Portland, Maine, which is about 2 hours north of Boston. So we'll be putting that one out there very very soon, and then obviously on this one you got Mr. Pat Ricard, our back-to-back Pro Bowler,
there he is.
on the left, and yep, and I think he's one of the first, or definitely in the last decade, back-to-back Pro Bowlers in the CA, and then my man Ern on the right, who we all know who Ernest Edwards is, who's listening to this show, I would imagine. So,
Yes, sir.
excited, obviously for the camps and getting back to a little normalcy, and we'll be putting another one out pretty soon.
Very, very cool. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's and speaking of Pat, right? He's now the poster child for the 21 schedule, right? When the Ravens released the schedule, he is that guy, man. Baltimore
It's
loves
great.
some Project Pat, and I gotta get back with him, man. He's got to try a Maryland blue crab. He's been in Baltimore for far too long, and yet to have a blue crab, it blows my
That's
mind.
shameful.
That is
That's
very
shameful,
shameful.
right?
I mean, you at least had a little bit of Virginia Beach, right? Did you have a blue crab
Yeah,
at that time frame, right?
I have had
Got
a
to.
blue crab. I've had a blue crab. So
Okay,
I don't know
so
what Pat's doing. I'll call Pat after this, find out what he's doing. But
exactly right. I told him we got to go to Jimmy's Seafood. Probably the world's famous, Maryland
mhm,
crab house, right? And it's in his
yep,
backyard. But anyway, man, look, I'm not going to take up much more of your time. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Sharing some memories. Going down memory road. And talking recruiting because that's obviously the platform for what this is. So with that, man, I'm going to say thank you. We're going to be in contact, obviously, right? So, I'll talk to you shortly. But for the viewers out there, please hit the subscribe button, support the channel. Let's blow this thing up. Let's give these kids, student athletes, the platform that they deserve. They deserve looks and exposure, regardless of the level of football, right? I mean, if they got a dream to play college ball, if it's D1 or NAIA, it's still college football. Let's live out that dream. Let's help them do it. I'm Rob Odie. This was Spotlight 39. Nick, I appreciate it. We'll be in contact. Till next time, I'll catch you.